And I'm joined by Sean from Trek on the Tube. And today, folks, we're going to be talking about the first 7 episodes of Star Trek Discovery Season 4. Uh, I just want to start off with the positives. I think Discovery visually has greatly improved since the beginning of Season 3. I can't speculate about the budget for any season, but it always looks sleek, inexpensive. Sure, there are bottle episodes where not as many effects are happening, but it always tends to look very good. My criticisms early on in the show were too much lens flare, the overuse or the over rendering of CG to the point where it's just like it becomes phony looking. Now they've kind of perfected the look of the show and the style of the show. I think they keep the camera very steady nowadays. They tend to film things much better than they did before, and they don't overcomplicate the shots like they used to. Like before in say season 2, you used to have a conversation and the camera would have to be spinning around them at two different angles, and it's like why? Just hold the camera, reverse shot. That's all you got to do. You know how much time that takes to set up those complicated shots. Definitely, I think the restrictions uh, have made them kind of prioritize like shots, and they're like, let's just keep it simple, guys. In conversations in rooms, we don't need to have lens flare in the background floating up and down the side of the screen for no reason. We don't need this haze that they used to have a lot in the earlier seasons. So I'm just saying now, visually it's improved. It's much clearer. I like the characters. I've always liked the characters. I've not always liked what they've done with them. I'm very glad to see Saru back. I love the uniforms. I think they're the best looking uniforms of the show. I
Oh,
wasn't
wow.
sold on them in the promotional imagery, but in the context of the show, they're a great contrast to the Discovery herself as a ship. Um, so what other positives can I say? Yeah, I like the cast and the crew, and it's just the story and the
The
writing that gets
performances.
me.
The
So
acting's good.
the acting's always good. Yeah.
The
Uh,
actors do a lot with like sometimes they're not given the best dialogue there.
yeah.
And they're not given the best like character developments with the actors, they're giving it everything they have, really. It's very rare when I see a performance that I don't like. And this isn't a dig on Discovery. There's all like in every show, there's always like, sometimes there are shows where all of the acting is flawless. But no, there's always going to be like one performance or something that's not that good. But it
So
only happens very rarely.
what would you say your positives are for not only season 4, but since season 3, it's kind of jumped into the 32nd century. We have a new kind of aesthetic. And do you agree that visually it's
Yeah,
improved?
I think that visually the show has grown a lot. I think the show is trying to take itself. This is going to be very, I guess, metaphorical. What I'm trying to say, the show was trying to be adult in seasons 1 and 2, but it came across as very teenage. It came across. It was trying too hard. It was like Arrow season 5. It was really trying to be something that it wasn't accomplishing. And it's because they were putting too much effects. They were making everything dark. They were trying to make it gritty. Yeah, the VFX weren't handled very well, especially like the big green screen things in the Mycelium Network. Although granted, that might be a bit of a different thing for Star Trek. They've never really done that before. But I think they were trying to also bring over a lot of the aesthetics from like the Kelvin films. Whereas here, the show, ever since like the Grand Leap into season 3, I feel like they've grown up. The show is now actually an adult. It's no longer a teenager that thinks it's an adult. It's actually an adult. Visually, I know that may sound weird, but no, it. I think the color palette is a lot like smoother. It almost feels pastel instead of like what it was before. Um, and the visual effects are cleaner. They stay on the visual effects and on the shots that they have a little longer, so you can actually take them in. I think the camera work is better. They keep things a lot more steady. They don't shake it around all over the place. I do think that we still have maybe a bit too much blue all the time, and if it's not blue, it's like an orange or a yellow hue, and that's what they go for. It's basically all it is. It's like a gray blue or an orange yellow, and those are the colors of discovery. And I think it would be nice to like go onto a planet and have like really bright green trees, you know, that kind of stuff.
There's a
Um,
fire theme in both season 2 and 4. If you go back to season 2 and then, well, I mean, I don't know if like red, the Red Angel and stuff, but
mm,
like fire was an element, especially in the premiere episode of season 2. And I noticed in this season, not only do you have the fireballs that happen like on the bridge during battles, like just random like fireballs pop out of the places. I don't know why. I mean, it's all just I don't never even paid attention
it's
to
the
it. Those
fire
people,
swamp on the bridge.
with the sparks and everything, and there's always like chunks of stuff on the floor, and
Yeah,
it's like
that's a classic. Concrete chunks and rock chunks always fall on the bridge for some
I
reason.
never noticed any of that until it was pointed out. And then the fireplace in the new bar set, which is like one of the best.
That's nice.
That's a really
I,
good
I
set.
appreciate most scenes that happen in the bar, and I think that the bar was a great addition.
Yeah,
Um, for all the like for as much as this show, generally speaking, tries to make you connect and really feel something for its characters, it doesn't really put in a lot of work like into doing that. It's always very surface level kind of drama. You never really see the characters spend time together. You never really sit there with them and enjoy their presence and then grow into like a relationship with these characters. And putting a bar and having them sit around the fireplace and do that, I think, is working a lot. And also having Koba be the counselor now, or the therapist, or the psychiatrist. I don't know.
yeah.
Be the one that talks to everyone. Having that character go around the ship and talk to all of these characters and have these moments, I think is really great.
The chain of excuse me, the chain of command is kind of confusing in the show because the jobs that people are delegated to doing are sometimes head scratchers. It's like Stamets. We didn't know if he was the chief engineer or not, or where is the chief engineer. I guess Jet Reno is now. Saru, he's first officer. No, he's captain. No, he's doesn't want to do it, and he comes back and he's only first officer. It's like Tilly was a cadet, and it's like she captained the ship at one point in last season, and she has her moments. Certainly, I like Tilly, but it's like then in this season she takes some trainees out. One gets killed on this very dangerous, seemingly like unnecessary mission. That it's a trope in sci-fi. Something has to go terribly wrong. I mean, they're in the
To be
32nd
fair, it
century,
wasn't
and they're so
supposed to be a
easily knocked
dangerous
out
mission.
of the commission. And what? Say
Yeah,
again?
but to be fair, it wasn't supposed to be dangerous. It just happened that it was dangerous. Like
It
all of a
was,
sudden,
yeah, that trope is like I accept it, but I'm still like. So her solution at the end when the monster's coming toward them is to say like, let's all have a therapy session. Basically, it's a lot of therapy sessions that happen in season 4, especially. They dealt with that in season 3 too, where people regret it. I guess coming to the future with Burnham, and they're all like, "I'm messed up, but I can't really tell Burnham like I resent you now because I came here and now I'm depressed."
well, that would have been a very interesting plot to have
Yes,
like
that would have
one
been
crew
good
member
for
blame Burnham or like
become resentful
someone.
of her, but
Yeah,
try not to. You know what I
because
mean?
you know that there's like a lower decker that was just on the ship, and everyone was like, "We're going," and this lower decker was like, "We're going where? What?
Yeah.
I don't really." And then have that person resent, and
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's a bit too dark. Maybe it's a bit too The Expanse. If you eventually have this character like space himself because he can't live with it, but that would have been interesting.
Wouldn't it have been cool if they all arrived at the 32nd century? Everything was like totally cool, peace throughout the galaxy. Like you could do anything you want. It was like the ultimate heavenly utopia that Star Trek actually isn't, but aspires to be. That would have been a much more
That would have
interesting
been
thing.
radical.
Like,
That would have
yeah,
been
it would have been
awesome.
radical, but it would have given the writers kind of like a challenge of the how do you make
Yes.
where's the conflict
What are we
coming from?
doing?
Because the need for characters who experiencing trauma and having like being super emotional in not only one episode, but like a trauma that carries over, like with Book. His trauma is gonna be relevant throughout the whole season now. I thought it would be a 2-episode thing, a 3-episode thing. Not that he would all of a sudden be okay. It's just that the story wouldn't linger on it. You know what I mean. You would always be
Okay.
aware that he felt bad still, but they've made it a huge part of the first half of the season to the point where now he's motivated to go with this dude Tarka. Is that his name?
I don't know the Ryzen or the Ryzian.
The
I can't
Rysinian.
the Ryzanian.
Ryzen.
No, I knew
I like the
I
scenes on
felt
Volcania though. Anyway, go ahead.
oh Volcania. I felt that they were gonna make Book like his whole struggle like a season long thing because it was connected to the season long thing. Like Sahel
Yeah,
didn't want to spoil anything. Starfleet didn't want to spoil anything. He said, "Don't worry about it. This whole anomaly is going to get resolved in a couple episodes," and totally not. Um, and then yeah, I kind of knew that once they connected Book to that, it's like Book is going to struggle throughout the whole season as long as they haven't figured out this thing. I did say very early on, I don't find it necessary to actually emotionally distress one of our characters. Like, I understand the threat that
yeah.
is the DMA. Like, I comprehend it. I value the lives of the people in this show, even the ones from planets that we've never heard of before. And I don't want anyone to die, and it impacts me when they die. Um, I don't need Book to feel that and to show that on screen uh, personally.
All due respect
Although
to David Ajala, he's good. He's
yeah,
good in the role.
although that's what I was going to say. At least David Ajala is a very good actor, and he's nailing it. Which is, I
Yeah.
mean, at least there's that.
The season started out strong, and Discovery often does for me. Like the first few episodes of, or the first two episodes at least of season three, I really liked, and I was like, it's getting good now. It's getting better. Same thing happened here, where the first episode was exciting. I had a few nitpicks, but it was it was a solid, action-packed episode. I don't mind the more JJ-ish, and I know that's like almost a cursed thing to say, but the more actiony modern elements of Star Trek, and like as season openers, like something that comes in with a big bang. Then at the end of that, like David Ajala or Book's planet is destroyed. This is a Quajon, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit! Now it's personal. Like at the end of that, you're kind of excited, right? And then it gets into episode two, where is also a decent episode where it's like this thing where Burnham has to learn to let go of Book. Not literally, but he's tethered. But she has to learn to take the risk that he might die and he's not ready. She's realizing as a captain she can make mistakes. And then at the end, she has to kind of like talk him down. She's very, I know that's his girlfriend, but like she's very maternal. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I like about her character now. It's like they're not afraid to make her like soft and gentle. Maybe they
She's
go a
had
little bit.
three mothers at this point, so it's about time she knows how to be a mother.
But maybe they overdo it sometimes because of the reaction to her like sternness and unlikability in the earlier seasons, which I didn't mind at all. But then you get into episode three, and I just want to remind myself of the title of that episode.
Picard was very stern and frigid in like that first season.
Choose to live. That's where my heart sank, and I'm being really honest here, people. That's where it's the Quat Malad episode.
Oh yeah,
And like the
that was
the warrior Romulan ninja nuns.
I got no problem with that. I got no
I
problem
can't
with
stand
that.
it. I can't
You
stand
can't
it.
stand. I can't. Okay, I don't exactly like that. Her mother is one of them. I think that's a bit like
Oh, don't get me started. But yeah, go
that.
ahead.
It's a bit like
Oh
okay, like
shit.
you know how they say Star Wars is always about the same family. This
Mhm.
is the kind of thing that we could avoid. Like you don't need to make her mother a Kuat Milan. Anyway. I think they're an interesting bunch, and I think it's fun that they exist. They still exist so far. But see, Discovery is full of these little things that I quite enjoy. I very much enjoyed the whole concept of the alien species. I liked their design. I thought that all of the aesthetics, like the visual effects and the set work that they did, was really good. And to an extent, I liked the Lost Cause, I guess, mission, though I have my problems with the plot itself. It didn't make too much sense to me. Like, she could have gone to Navarre and said, "Look, there's this species. I can't advocate for them because I'm one person. But how
Their
about
rules are
we
so stupid
advocate for
too.
them?"
But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the rules are bent and twisted so that they work for the plot that they want to
Yeah.
write, and that's a bit disappointing. I think if you want to write well or correctly, to be blunt, you need to follow and respect the rules, and that's the challenge. You can't twist them and turn them and do them how you want, because then there's no point. You know what I mean? But the species, and yeah, we missed out on seeing the species. We missed out on seeing them uh, actually having a moment with them on the planet or in their ship or in their ship moon or whatever it was. But I always come out of Discovery. Admittedly, I always come out of Discovery thinking, "Oh my god, there was potential there. They could have done something with that. I loved that." So there's always something that I like, truly, when I come out of basically any Star. It's very rare that there's an episode where I come out of I'm like, "Nah, fuck that." But there is, and there's even one or a couple in Lower Decks. But I really like that. I like that concept, and I have no problem with the Kuat Milat. It's a concept. It's
Yeah.
very fantasy.
I
I'll grant
didn't.
you that.
The main warrior nun who was trying to protect the aliens. That whole ending part was cool. Like that was very Trekky, but the journey to that point, I thought was just so stupid and unnecessary. Even to the point where the writers, I think, are acknowledging the absurdity of like the Kuat Malat way, in that like they tell him burn him, like no weapon. Here's a sword, and she's like, "Are you serious?" Like as an audience member, I'm like, "Yeah, are you fucking serious? Like what?" And the whole thing about this woman who we're supposed to think is fighting for this noble cause, in the end is going in and like transporting in and like fighting. And if they're so against technology, why are they using transporters? If they can't use a modern weapon, why would they use modern anything at all? Like why would they
I
use
would
ships?
think that it's more about like the spirituality of,
Sword fighting.
I mean, there's a physical thing about like feeling the kill. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you get what. Stop
Yeah, I get
making
it.
fun of me.
I get it. No, but I get it though. But
You know what I mean? It's
it
it's more
belongs in another
personal. Or
franchise for me. It belongs in
maybe
another fantasy
it's
realm.
quite fantasy. I'll admit it, but there is a thing about making it personal, or I guess acknowledging the fact that you're taking a life when
Yeah.
you take it with a sword or like a melee weapon, rather than fuck you. God damn it.
It's just murder nuns. I'm not into the murder nuns.
You're not into
Just
the
to put
murder
it
nuns.
simply.
My problem is not so much with the murder nuns, and it's not so much with the AI hater nuns either. Like,
Oh
I'm
god.
fine with them. I'm fine with having this. The only thing is, I find it a bit on the nose to have two all-female sects that both have one man uh, accepted into them in the same season of the same show. I'm like, that's a bit okay. You could have done maybe an all-female and then an all-male one just to change things.
Yeah.
But
Well.
okay, it is what it is.
Okay. The next episode is for All Is Possible. Do you remember that one that we talked a bit about it, where Tilly leads the
Yes.
group?
And my opinion is that that is my favorite episode of the season, and I'm coming to terms with the fact that that is probably not the case for everyone. I'm the only one that liked that one. Is that it?
I liked elements of it, but I just didn't. It was another dud for me. And usually Discovery with me, everything's like kind of like a lot of episodes are okay, but more and more it's like I'm just not liking the individual episode. Not to say that episode 8 or 9 or whatever, I'll be like, "Oh my god, that was so good." I'd love to be I'd love to be at that point again, but
It's
it's a
just not your
roller coaster of
flavor, though.
inconsistency.
It's just not your like. You say every episode is a
It's
therapy session. That's not your flavor. That's not what you're looking for in a show in general, or at least not in Star Trek, right? but
Yeah.
this is what the show is. And I guess like I try to be
There's
as objective as possible when I do my reviews and when I do these discussions when we talk about it. But at the end of the day, if it's just not what I like or what I'm looking for in a show, it is hard to be objective. Like all you can really say is, yeah, there's the production value.
I don't mind feelings and sentimentality in the writing of a show.
Mm.
A lot of shows I watch are melodramatic, like Yellowstone, for example. I recently got into that, and that's at times very cheesy, but it works. It works damn well because it knows what it is, and it is
Apparently, there's
totally
a spin-off for that.
Oh yeah, the spin-off 1886 is also 1883 is good.
1864. Is that not it?
No, no,
No.
no. 1883 is the spin-off, and then there's one called the Four Sixes.
Okay.
But anyway, what was I saying? We were talking about Yellowstone. Oh yeah, some shows I watch are very melodramatic and it works, but sometimes with this show, I feel the overwriting of sentimentality and emotion. It seems like I don't know what to do. Let's have the character talk about their feelings, and that's okay to a point. But I got to a point where Culber is having a session with Book, and I literally just spaced
When he was
out.
doing the
I
sand
can't
thing,
pay attention. I just can't deal.
when he's doing
I'm
the
just like,
sand thing.
yeah, I'm like
Okay,
watching
okay,
all that.
I'll grant you that.
Oh
I,
my
I've
god,
I've often said this.
they
There were
don't know how
basically
boring it is.
there were basically two types of TV shows in my life. There are the ones that I can't really look away. I just have to watch it.
Yeah,
And we could go over them. I'm not going to piss you off by saying which ones. We all know. I will watch them. I'll say Dexter New Blood to change it up. Dexter New Blood is a show that once I sit down in front of, even if I wanted to look at a second screen or something, I couldn't. I couldn't do it.
it's a good
I just
example of
have
a
to
show.
watch it.
That's a good example. The reason I think you have to watch it because it's a great example of a show where every minute is necessary. Every minute is essential to the story. They
Mm,
waste no time at all in that.
no.
In this, we're talking about a miniseries with 10 episodes, and it's almost over
Even the
now.
moments that seem mundane or what have you, like for anyone that doesn't know the character of Dexter, I'm not going to spoil too much, but even if there's a moment that's mundane or that he's just trying to live his life normally, that's part of the character or the arc, or that's part of that specific story that they're trying
It
to tell.
means
Like it's very
something.
important
Yeah,
that he's doing that.
yeah.
Anyway, so Dexter New Blood, new example for a new show that we both love. I can't turn away. And there are other shows where it's just like I'm not gonna say background noise, but the way Fathery has watched the Arrowverse, which is kind of like he's working and he has the Arrowverse on the background, and then you pay attention to it, but kind of not.
Yeah.
That's the way I watch The Walking Dead nowadays, that kind of stuff. That's what Discovery is. I don't do that because I have a channel and I want to offer like a correct review, and I want
Yeah.
to find Easter eggs, so I have to sit there and watch it. But it's a strain. Like I really want to be um, folding laundry at this point. Like you know what I mean? It's disappointing. I'm not like that for Lower Decks or Prodigy, and I sat through Picard, but Discovery is it just doesn't interest me, I guess, as much as it does. As much and but thing is, I used to think they're doing everything wrong, but apparently not. There are so many people that enjoy it and that like it. And I used to think, oh, these people are just fronting. I was trying to conceive why do they like this? Like, what is there to like in this specific thing or that thing? And generally speaking, we're talking about details that we all enjoy, but no, I think it's just the way that they talk about their feelings and the way that they make the episodes so much about those feelings, no matter how kind of surface level they are. That's important to people, and people enjoy that. So the only conclusion I can come to is that it's really not my type of show. My biggest complaint, I think, that isn't too much a personal complaint, like a complaint that I could make about the quality of the show this season, is that they had a big opportunity to explore and show us this new federation or this new future that they're in, but they fell back on a universe-ending threat once again. And I know they might twist it and make it about a new species or going beyond our dimension or our universe or something like that at the end. But at the end of the day, it is still a doomsday kind of overarching plot, and I'm disappointed in that. I think that's something that a lot of people have, even fans of Discovery or new Star Trek, have kind of advocated against. People are kind of over it. We've had the Red Angel, we've had I can't even remember the Burn, we've had Synthulu. Now we've got the DMA. They've all got these fantastic names. I would like to move away from that. I think having an overarching villain or like species is I guess interesting. It can it helps develop and have a trajectory for your plot. But I think having something like the Packlids is a more rewarding way to do it.
Exactly. The mystery in Prodigy, not to go into other Star Trek shows too much, is much more intriguing from the get-go. That mystery right off the bat, you can't wait to figure out the details of that. The problem with Discovery is that they just go too big all the time. They went huge in season 1 with the mycelial net. This is a huge plot point that they've since completely ignored, and nobody talks about it or nobody brings it up anymore. But season 1, in fact, had the biggest stakes because the mycelial network could potentially destroy not only the universe but the multiverse.
All
of existence everywhere and all this
Evil
stuff.
Stamets. Mirror Stamets nearly destroyed every single thing.
Yeah, that ever existed.
He nearly ended canon, people.
And Father, he says, I really plug into Discovery more so than Ted Lasso or The Expanse, to be honest.
That is amazing. That is amazing. But see, this is why I say that it's becoming more and more difficult for me to actually do reviews, because at the end of the day, I've never believed in the phrase "it's not made for you." I don't believe in that, or at least I've never believed in it, because in my opinion, you can make a movie that maybe is designed conceptually to appeal to a specific audience, but if it's good, everyone will like it.
Yeah.
You can make a movie about one struggle or one situation targeted to one specific group. If it's a very good movie, if it's well executed, if it's well filmed and everyone's acting, then people will like it and it will connect with everyone. So when people say, "Oh, well, this show is not made for you," it doesn't really doesn't make sense to me. But more and more, I'm in a situation where I'm like, maybe it can be possible, and maybe Discovery isn't made, or rather tailored to what I expect to see from a Star Trek show. Because I mean, Father is clearly he's more so plugged into Discovery than The Expanse and Ted Lasso, which to me that feels like I legitimately, if I saw that online, I'd think you're trolling.
Why? No, I mean, I totally get why people love Discovery. I mean, Father in particular is one that can defend anything you have to throw at it. He's very good at it because
my arguments are null and void.
He has a true
because I like Voyager in his eyes.
I appreciate the show has people. Sometimes I see tweets after episodes, and they're like, "I cried and stuff," and tears. It's always a lot of people with tears, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be like, "Oh well, you don't know what you're talking about," but I find it fascinating that, and I kind of appreciate the fact that for some people, it is a sense of what is catharsis the right word? It's like a way of releasing emotion through the characters. So they're probably at home and to be honest, there was an episode, the Arium episode, Project Daedalus. I thought they did a fantastic job of basically introducing a character we barely knew, having us like her, and then killing her. I felt sad when she died. I really did. I was like, oh, wow. But Discovery doesn't do it that often for me. It's very rare that I actually get an emotional response. I've had more emotional responses from episodes of Lower Decks and Prodigy. And Lower Decks ain't meant to be serious. But I felt more emotions for those characters than I have for the live action characters in Picard and Discovery. And in a way, like you said, it's the whole thing. It's not made for you. I feel alienated from it more and more. I don't have a right to watch it because my feelings are more and more negative about it. Not oh, I fucking hate this. It's just, oh, this is not I'm watching. I watch other things that I love, and I fucking feel I feel good. like, oh, I experienced that cool episode of that show that's airing right now, whether it
Mm.
be Dexter New Blood or whatever else, like Better Call Saul. Can't wait. Um, but this is a show where I just don't feel like other people feel. So it's more like afterwards when I see the reactions, I feel like, oh, I don't feel like I'm a part of this anymore.
Yeah, well, I know exactly what they're feeling because there's a specific sentiment or emotion that you have inside of you, and I don't know if it's like dopamine or just like a craving or like a hype. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
there's a specific thing that you feel when you finish an episode of a show that you're just like, oh my god, like and then you I don't know, there's a thing inside of you. I don't get that at all for Discovery. To be fair, though, I don't get it for any of the new Star Trek shows, not even Lower Decks. I enjoy Lower Decks a lot, and I come out of them very happy, and I think that they're very well executed. I don't get that though. Like the excitement that I feel for Dexter New Blood, where I feel privileged to be alive to see this show. I don't feel that for like these Star Trek shows. And there are other shows that I watch and enjoy. I don't feel that way, but I still enjoy them.
There's not
But
been
yeah,
a there's not been a news show that I love
I'm
consistently.
waiting. I'm waiting for one. And I know that people will tell me, but Lower Decks, and I give it very high ratings. But I'm waiting for like a show that has that, that thing where it's just indescribably like I need more of this,
And you,
and this is what defines like the franchise. I haven't got it yet.
not to
We'll
get
get
into
there. I
not to
feel
get
like
into
we'll get there. I'm pretty
yeah,
positive.
I don't want to get into like behind the scenes producers and directors and stuff too much. But I will say that for whatever reason, I guess the reason's obvious if you think about it. I have much more confidence in Mike McMahon as a runner in a showrunner in Trek. And who are the guys who are doing Prodigy?
The Hageman
The
brothers.
Hageman brothers. Like, I want those guys to have the live action jobs. And I'm not like, I know live action is so difficult. It's so difficult to make a movie or TV show even just watchable. And
Hmm.
you have to juggle a lot of things. But I think with this show, I just don't find that it's consistent. But there are good episodes. People like will say, why do you watch it? Well, for one thing, I'm a Star Trek fan, and I'm gonna pretty much watch everything Star Trek. I would never go to a Star Wars person and say, "You complained about the sequel trilogy. Why are you watching? Why are you watching? Why'd you go see it? Why'd you watch the other two? If you didn't like The Force Awakens, why'd you go see the last? Because I'm a Star Wars fan, and I gotta go see every movie. That's totally understandable. And the same thing. It's the same thing with Trek fans or Harry Potter fans or Lord of the Rings fans or whatever. If they come out with like stuff you don't like, you're allowed to still watch it. And it's just that the people who love it don't want to hear you complain. That's
Which I
all
mean,
it is.
that's fair. I understand that. I understand that. You don't want to come in like and this is why you feel a little alienated, and I do too. I don't want to come on like Twitter or YouTube or whatever social media and start saying, this is shit, or like even constructive criticism, like this isn't, this shot or this thing or this whatever that they did. I don't feel comfortable doing that, especially with Discovery, because Discovery has kind of a very protective fan base. So I really don't want to just fight against that. I do think that Discovery has such a protective fan base because it was met with such like insane and intense and just hatred, basically, and just blind hatred. So many people that I talk to just, have you seen Discovery? Do you know what about? Yeah, yeah. Because when they know that I talk about Star Trek online, they're like, "Oh, have you seen the garbage piece of shit that is Discovery?" It's like, okay, and then they'll tell me like, it's not as good as Enterprise. I'm like, Enterprise, bruh, what? I wasn't expecting that as a reference to like what the best Star Trek is, but anyway, um, people just blindly hate on this show, and I think that that's why there's such a protective, defensive fan base. Um, I do think it will be interesting when Discovery is no longer on air, and I don't wish the show to disappear. I don't wish it to end sooner rather than later. I'm just interested to see the shift. I feel like Discovery is the show that everyone likes to point their fingers at. And I know that other people hate on Picard and stuff like that, but they point their fingers specifically at Discovery. And the fan base gets specifically defensive about Discovery. I'm interested and intrigued to see what happens when that show stops. And when we no longer have this pillar of like dividedness. You know what I mean? Like, are the Discovery hyper fans gonna continue watching more Star Trek, or was that it? Are the hyper haters going to carry on thinking that Star Trek is dead, and they're going to keep on hating on everything,
I
or is the
I don't.
example
I'm not
gonna
sure if
go
you're
away?
aware, but the hate for Discovery, in terms of like big channels doing the hate videos, has died down significantly compared to season 3. And I think it got to a point where people who didn't like it were like, I'm doing this for 3 and 4 years now. I don't want to do something I don't enjoy. Yes, it gets me the views. I'm not talking about any negative channel specifically. I mean, there's positive and negative and everybody in between. But I think a lot of people who just got tired of complaining about it just kind of laid off it. I don't see as much complaining about Discovery as I used to. And in
Well, I've
ways,
blocked
I think,
everything years ago now, so I'm not aware. I'm speaking from my experience of like years ago.
but what you have now is a show that's a little more put together. And in season 4, it's a little boring. It's like the
Yes,
excitement and the novelty of the 32nd century is now worn off. What do you do next? Oh, the same old plot point about some mega nasty thing that's going to mess
that's
everything
quite
up.
it. I think that's it.
And I don't care
In
about the
my
mystery. No, who cares about this mystery?
surely is someone out
These
there.
10C aliens, I couldn't give two squirts of whatever
Oh, is
about what they
10C the
look
name of
like.
the aliens?
I guess so, yeah. I don't know anymore.
I thought it
DMA,
was.
what does that mean? What does that mean, DMA? Something. I don't even know because I don't care. I've watched the episodes a couple of times, some 3 times. In fact, episode 5 is my favorite.
Valerie agrees with you, by the way. He says the hate seems to have died down. So maybe it has.
Okay.
Maybe there's just like a general consent. Like, I don't know. People have just gotten bored of hating on the show. I do think that Discovery, um, like we were talking about my channel earlier, like I have a lot less views, but I have a consistent kind of fan base, I guess. I think Discovery's kind of in the same pocket right now. It doesn't have I don't think it's the most successful nor the most watched show, although I may be mistaken, but I do think it has a specific fan base that'll come back, they'll watch that, and then they'll move on. You know what I mean? Like kind of like Supergirl. Supergirl, everyone made fun of it, but at the end of the day,
Let's
it
not
had
get
its
into
little fan
CW
base.
shit again.
It had its little fan. Well, we almost had a CW
Oh, God, no.
Star Trek show. We did.
Oh,
They were
yeah, no.
hiring
Wasn't it
CW
Starfleet
writers.
Academy? Wasn't
Yes, it was
supposed?
those
Yeah,
bullet
okay.
points. They said these are the shows that are absolutely coming out, and it never came out. But they had CW writers and producers attached to the Starfleet Academy show,
Okay,
and they could have put it out on the CW.
we got to move on to episode 5.
Oh,
We only have less than 20 minutes left.
the examples.
The examples. My favorite episode of the season so far, and it's
Well,
just
got Michael
simple.
Grey eyes in it.
Strangely enough, one of my favorite parts is when Book and Burnham go down to the asteroid, and it's got that like old TOS kind of background look, but like modernized. I guess they're using the AR wall. It's one of the fun things about season 4, from like a behind the scenes perspective. I'm looking for the AR wall, and I'm seeing how they utilize it, and it is still a combination of the AR wall and traditional green screen, but those are the kind of effects that I dig. I like the whole dilemma with the prisoners. That's where you got introduced to Tarka, and the whole experiment he does in engineering. I'm like, yeah, we're getting somewhere. We're getting answers. Like, this is advancing. Like, I'm getting to know about the DMA. And then when it was over and we get to the next 2 episodes, I just literally just stopped. I had lost all interest in whatever this thing is, who the aliens behind it are. They're talking about intergalactic or aliens beyond the galactic barrier or something like that. I'm interested to know if these aliens are from another galaxy. What would they look like? That's the only real thing I'm interested in knowing. But besides, I don't know. The DMA after episode 5, which was like the peak of the season for me. Certainly, there could be way better episodes later on.
Father is
But
leaving.
he's like, I'm sick of this complaining. No,
I don't think
thank you.
so. I'm
No, no, no.
surprised. I'm surprised he listened to us bitch for so long.
Father has been very interactive and engaging in this live stream, and we very much appreciate it. Let's read some of his comments. The 10C are what they are calling the aliens. It's kind of silly.
Okay.
Star Trek is a show where people walk around fake rocks. I like that though.
I do too. I enjoy the fake rocks. I'd like to see more of them.
Yeah, the little things they had to fight, and the whole dilemma with the prisoners, and the weird thing about that family tree stuff is like when Burnham starts using it in the next episode, and we'll get into the next episode now. We're almost done. I gotta say, Stormy Weather was like really frustrating for me to watch because it just starts off with, oh, there's a little holographic tree where literal clips from previous episodes are in the fucking thing. I'm like, what? What is this? Do they even care that people notice this shit? Like, yes, okay, they spelled simulation wrong in season 1. Honest mistake, I guess. They said simulation or whatever.
Simultation or whatever it was.
But this is like, come on, really? And
They call
Zora,
them they call them Staments too in season 1. They have him as Chief Engineer Staments with an N.
Okay.
NTS.
The whole thing with okay, Stormy Weather is the one where they go into the anomaly. Where that was kind of cool.
I called it a bottle episode. I don't know if I
yeah.
think maybe it isn't, but I called it a bottle episode. It's basically everything happens on the ship inside the anomaly. They're in like this dead space, basically, this empty void of space.
That reminded me of early TNG for some reason. I don't know if it's one of the episodes where they go into some void or something and they send out a probe. And
there's a Voyager episode that does that. Oh, is there a TNG episode that does that too? Maybe.
Yeah, there's a few episodes that do that. Or different. The ship's always at some point going into something that they can't get out of.
Yeah, well, this time it was the Eye of Sauron.
Yeah, it was the Eye of Sauron. The anomaly itself looks like an eye. We're constantly in modern Trek referencing eyes.
Oh my god, they did it for you. They know you don't like eye violence. They decided to make the whole anomaly an eye, and they're gonna blow it up. They're gonna blow up the biggest eye they can possibly blow up just for you.
I really don't think they knew what the hell they were doing with Gray as a character. They're like, okay, the most logical thing we have to do next, I think they said, is make him a corporeal being in a synth body. The Picard connection, I guess you have to connect them for whatever reason. Sure. I would think that at this point in the 32nd century, people in synthetic bodies would be common.
No, I don't think so, because it's almost like the advancement of technology was halted.
Oh yeah, true that. Yeah.
With the burn, like they have this whole thing where, like, well, they have clearly they have the programmable matter, but that was an advancement maybe that happened before the burn happened. But they kind of explain that the burn stopped because everyone was kind of locked in place. Where they were is where they stayed.
One of my favorite scenes is with Culber and Adira at the bar, and Adira is waiting for Gray to wake up or whatever. That kind of element of their story was really good. Everything after that, like scenes with them, I'm like, not only does it not feel like they have any chemistry, it like they literally don't feel like a couple or even like close friends. It seems very
I constantly get the feeling that Adira doesn't like Gray. I don't know why, but I feel like Adira is kind of just patiently accepting Gray because Gray was already there before. Like, they were in a relationship before. Gray wants to carry that on, so Adira's just going with it but I get the feeling that, and I don't know if this is done on purpose or not. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just reading into it like the wrong way. But I feel like, and there was even a point where I felt like Adira didn't want Gray to get a bite. I don't know why, but that's how I feel about it. I'm also not
Well,
convinced
it
that Gray
changed for
was
Adira when
necessary as a character. I feel like Gray was good as kind of like a way to introduce us or propel Adira's story into Discovery. And Adira feels like a good fit for the show. Feels like an interesting character, but I don't feel like Gray. Gray to me is more of a background useless thing. It's just like kind of love interest to Adira somewhat. They're trying to find a use for Gray with Zora, I think.
that's what I think. That felt very forced. Okay, we have Zora now, who they have to acknowledge at some point
Well,
because they kind of
Tilly would have
they
done that before,
they
right?
totally brushed over Zora in season 3. I thought that was going to be a thing in season, like, let's figure out what Zora's all about. And it's like, okay, we ignored that a lot, so now we're just going to have to really get into the weeds with Zora. And it starts with that episode where Gray is counseling Zora. So now we're getting to a point in the show where a synth, another trope, is brought up again. The AI, and the whole thing with Zora being, I don't. There's this thing that's happening that's really dangerous on the ship. I don't know if I should tell the captain. And Grace's like, no, you got to tell the captain. It's like this weird therapy session where Gray has to remind the computer to tell the captain when there's imminent fucking danger. It's like, I don't buy it. I get what they're going for, like emotionality with the two synths, the two AIs. Like, oh,
I don't
it's so
view
new and
Gray as a synth,
it's so new
though.
and refreshing. I have never seen that before. And you know what? You know what? The whole thing with Zora being like, oh, like, oh, I'm crying, or whatever the fuck, is that it reminds me of Data in Generations when he's all like emotional and he's cowering from Soren and he can't save Geordi. I hate that part of Generations. I'm sure a lot of other people do too. Where it's like, fuck, why they had to
I
make
don't
Data?
like.
They
I
had to
don't
make
like.
Data a pussy in his first movie. Like
I
it
don't like
may. I'm
Data's
sorry, I used that
dreams.
word pussy. I'm not genderizing Data or saying anything about women. It's just a general statement to mean you're a wimp. Like,
Oh,
but yeah,
Braxton says he hated that part too.
Braxton
There you
also
go.
hated that part. Yeah, but
People
see,
like their Data strong.
it's gotten to a point now where I'm watching a show where, okay, they're doing the big galaxy-ending mystery that I don't care about. Again, they're doing the AI, the complicated AI shit,
Mm.
and it's like, is there anything else in sci-fi that you can just? Oh wait, when they can't think of anything else, let's do time travel. It's like the trifecta of sci-fi tropes now. And another thing with the holographic screens, they don't do too much of that now. I think they're learning now that they're
It's
so
dumb
far
because
into
they
the
could do so
future,
much more technically.
everything's kind of malleable and nothing's like,
Yeah.
you can kind of just create things out of thin air and that's acceptable now. It's just, it doesn't feel new. It feels like recycled things in a different package. Like
Well, I mean, I've been
from
saying this for
Control to
years.
the Picard stuff to this stuff now, it's like all the same shit. Really?
I specifically remember saying this in a conversation. I don't know if it's with us or with Starfleet Boy or whatever, but I said that Star Trek used to be the thing that's at the forefront. It used to be the thing that's being the new. And Star Trek isn't there at the moment. Star Trek is just doing what everyone else has done. It's Star Wars that's doing the new somehow. Or things like Raised by Wolves. You know, Raised by Wolves is doing AI, it's doing synth in a way that we haven't really seen before. I'm not going to say Foundation is doing the new because Foundation is a thing that's been written like,
Yeah.
you know, it was written so many years ago. The Expanse, I feel like, is doing new this season. It's doing new on like, don't want to spoil too much about it, but I feel like it's doing new. There's like a subplot that's going on that is interesting me a lot. Yeah, Star Trek isn't doing new stuff as it stands, and that's a bit disappointing. And yeah, going back to like synthetic, I'm against time travel. Basically, I don't want it. I don't like it. I'm crossing my fingers for Terry Matlas with like Picard season 2, because I think that like he's used to writing time travel that has like specific rules with 12 Monkeys. So I'm thinking that maybe he's going to know how to juggle that in a more like I guess scientific way.
Time travel
Then
works in any science fiction only until it doesn't work anymore. When it's just not used well, it becomes almost terrible. It becomes really bad. It
well, yeah,
just
you either get
like
it right or wrong. There's no kind of like
there's an element of time travel in season 2 of Discovery that is infuriatingly inconsistent, and like the outcomes of whatever is predicted don't add up. This whole thing about control is eventually gonna wipe all sentient life from the galaxy. Not true. Not true at all. It will just do it to specific species that have enough technology for them to worry about. But anyway, besides that, it's this whole predestination paradox bullshit where Burnham at the end has to go back and create the events of earlier in the season. I'm like, really? That's the answer to the mystery that was Burnham the whole time. And remember when season 3 was about to come out and we first heard about the burn, because in the trailers like the burn. We're like,
everyone speculated burn
everybody's
as in
Burnham did it. Burnham is behind the burn.
Is literally the first 4 letters of her name. The burn. It has to be her.
I love Burnham though. I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's one of the big criticisms where people are like, she knows too much. She does too much. She doesn't delegate enough. Because her character is specifically designed to have that hubris, to have not only the intelligence to back up her claims. Usually,
the what? Sorry,
hubris. Like she has
the fucking hubris.
The
Say
fucking
it right.
hubris. But she does have that. Like there's a scene in I think the first episode of season 4 where the president's criticizing her, but she's trying to compliment her at the same time. She's like, "You single-handedly solved the burn," and Michael looks at her. She's like, "Yeah, I did." And like she gives her a serious look, like, "You're fucking right. I'm Michael," but like she has that attitude about her that makes it like it's one of these things that I honestly think, I'm not bringing sexism into this too much, but if a man was doing the same thing, I don't think people would be as picky about it, because there is a thing about captains in Star Trek. She's very Kirkish in that way, where when she believes she's right and like it's like she's gonna fight for the greater good or whatever, nobody's gonna tell her she's being reckless or being stupid, even if she deep down knows, yes, I took a big risk and I could have killed everybody. She's not going to admit it. Like Kirk wouldn't admit it either. You know what I mean?
No. But I mean, I think the general complaint, or at least from, I don't know what the illogical complaints were, but on my end, I would complain about like the decision making or the very centered around Burnham thing, because she wasn't captain. People would always defend by saying, well, Picard did this, or Kirk did this, or Janeway did that. It's like they were captains. There's a kind of captain's prerogative that for some reason exists in Star Trek shows. It's a thing. Captains can just go against the rules and they can do shit.
Yeah.
And like we all accept it. And I agree that that's a trope, and I agree that it's dumb, but it is. And Burnham wasn't the captain until now. Now she is. So it makes more sense for her to just do shit. Like when she's just a science officer or just a consultant, and she's like, I'm gonna take this shuttle, I'm gonna fly over there, and I'm gonna attack this. It's like, you can't just do that. If you're captain, you can. If you're captain, technically you're not allowed to. You're not supposed to, but you can, and it makes sense. And we've all come to accept it because Kirk did that.
I think her character is consistent. I think the writers put her in situations where she has to like always go against the grain. It's like, okay, in last season Book was captured. That's the one where we meet the Andorian.
Oh yeah,
yeah, for the first time, played by Noah Afferback-Katz. I forget the Andorian's name now. What was his name?
Rin,
yeah. That episode, I think it was episode 6, I think, of last season. Could be wrong. But she has to defy order. She has to defy Admiral Vance and just go off and save Book. And it's like, sure, what did you expect her to do? Like, did you honestly think she was just going to make We know by now her character is going to do that.
She doesn't do that.
She'll
Vulcan pinch the Federation president, like Vulcan nerve pincher before anything else. Like,
from the very beginning of Discovery, she has that like problem with authority. Where like she Vulcan pinches Giorgio not very well because she only passes out for a second, but she from the very get go she's like subverting command decisions and basically being a mutineer. And that was one of the things that was the setup for her character, that she has these caveats, right? But yeah, it's now that she's captain, it does make more sense that she can be that kind of brazen,
Yeah,
person. But yeah.
I
agree
think
with you there. Yeah.
I think what you said earlier about season 4, about it being kind of boring and kind of bland, is kind of where I'm at this point. In the sense that for the first time ever, I feel like there's no novelty to Discovery. And this is very bizarre for me to say this, but I've been looking for a status quo in Discovery. I always have. I've been looking for the norm. What is the norm? But we never have one. Season 1 is this, but then they're like, oh no, we're gonna change it because it's not working. So they do season 2. It's completely different. They got Pike, and it's a whole different thing. And then they're like, no, fuck that. That's not working. Screw that. Moving on. And then they do season 3. And like, oh, now it's season 3. And all of these seasons are very different. And every time it's a new pilot, it's a new show. They're trying to reinvent what Discovery is. But for the first time, they're not doing that. But they didn't embrace the new status quo that they have. They've created this new environment for them to exist in, but they haven't embraced it. Instead, they're just doing like a boring big plot again. The only thing I could really give this season as it stands is I'm enjoying the kind of finality, I guess, to certain characters and to their stories. I feel like they're really trying to, like Tilly, they gave her, and it makes sense. Like, she's never going to be captain. She, like, not, in my opinion, she wasn't cut out to be captain because she wouldn't enjoy that job. She's too sentimental. She's too nice to go out and, say you have to sacrifice yourself for the good of, the crew or whatever. She can't do that. She can't do those. She doesn't want to. I feel like she never would have wanted to do that. So it's nice that they gave her a finality, and I feel like it makes sense, and that's why I enjoyed that episode, because I saw the growth, and I understood that yes, it makes sense for her to be a professor, especially that she's grown in the sense that she's no longer like a stress ball of like anxiety. Am I gonna fail this, or am I? No, she's I don't know. She's better at controlling herself, and she can accomplish things better with more ease. And she can relate to the stress and the struggle that the younger ensigns or the cadets are going through. So it makes sense. And I feel like it would be good to do that with all of the characters. Saru is a bit weird. I thought really they were going to have more scenes with Saru being a diplomat over on Kamenov. That would have been more interesting in my opinion. I thought that maybe they would take Stamets and make Stamets like the head engineer on the spore killing spore drive project that they would have going in like Federation HQ, and they would start giving these characters kind of roles and posts that'll be their final ones. Kolber's, they're doing that with Kolber. I feel like they're doing that, and I like it. They're not doing it as much as I want, but that's what I'm enjoying so far in this season. Everything else is just noise. It's not very interesting.
The end of this mid-season leaves us off with, it's coming back February 10th, by the way. We have they figured out that the DMA is controlled by these aliens called 10C.
Okay.
They have this whole thing, this conference where they agree that we're gonna do it peacefully. Book and Tarka don't agree, and they go on a vigilante mission, turn Book's ship into a spore drive compatible ship with this, which admittedly cool technology I found. I'm like, this is 32nd century. It's like a portable spore drive you can just plug in. It's like it should be almost magical like that. Like it should be something I can't possibly understand, because that's the cool. It's a wonder that every ship hasn't been fitted with this. You know what I mean? Like it's weird.
Because he kept it a secret so far.
Well, I'm glad they're actually acknowledging that they're creating a next gen spore drive. It's one of the things that they mention where I'm interested in that process. Like, give me a story about that. Now we're seeing it for the first time at the end. that's cool because now Book and this guy can go wherever they want. And what are they going to do? Are they going to be killed, or like what's going to happen there? I'm kind of interested. I don't have faith that the next 6 episodes are going to be wow. I just know some are going to be good. I'm not going to like 2 of them. I'm really not going to like 2 of them. Say like it's just the average kind of formula for how I watch Discovery now. Where
You think you could do?
I don't know what I'm going to get.
Do your ratings. You could think you could do your ratings in advance.
Average them out.
No, but like not assign them to specific episodes, but you give like a 7, a 6, a 5, a 6, a 5, and then 1 9, and then you'll be able to place them as the season comes out. You think you can do that?
Well, I used to give ratings. I used to give ratings before and actually kind of average them out and see like, oh, well, like in the first season of Discovery, my average rating was like 6 point something.
Okay.
So, in season 2 was kind of like that too, where it was like an average of 6, out of 10. 6 point.
My average for Discovery season 1 is 5.9.
Okay.
And these are from ratings that I've actually given in live discussions. My seasons go 5.9, 6.3, 6.5. Those are the Discovery seasons.
It's
not very high. It's not low. It's not the worst thing.
I don't want to give scores anymore, mainly because I know somewhere down the line I might feel a different way, or might not be hung up on certain things as much.
Yeah, you can change your opinion.
I would say that season 4 so far it's strange because in some ways visually it's the best looking, but then I'm feeling less from it than I ever have.
I feel like this season has it doesn't have as much oomph to it. Like it has less want. You know what I mean? It doesn't want to be as much as like the other seasons were. The other seasons were just, they were giving it everything that they had, and they weren't
even though a lot of it didn't work. It was still decent.
They were going for it. Whereas this season, it feels much more restrained. They're like, I don't exactly know what we're gonna do, so we're just gonna lay it back. We'll do a bit of this because we know people like a bit of a mystery. We'll do a bit of maybe a prisoner on a planet, a bit of a dilemma, and it's nothing too courageous, I guess, and that's why it's not the most, in my opinion, intriguing of seasons. I'm not invested in it at all. Although I'm happy with like the way it looks, I guess. The aesthetics that they found and the visual like kind of language that they found for the show, that works. It's just that now they need to find a story to tell, or individual stories for each episode.
Yeah,
about rebuilding Federation.
Even some of that.
Make the Discovery the flagship. The Discovery is now the flagship. It goes from one planet, one system to another.
The whole meetings and negotiations about like who's going to join.
I like that. I think it works.
I know it's okay, but a lot of stuff that can be off screen. I was, and this is I know I shouldn't expect.
Well, do help missions. This planet needs help with this thing. This
what I was thinking. Like the season 4 was going to be them kind of going on. I for whatever reason thought it was going to be more episodic, but after seeing the trailer,
I don't know why I thought that.
Knowing about the anomaly, I was like, oh, I think they're going to do this whole season-long thing with the thing again. Oh, no. And then it certainly does seem to be the case. Visually, yes, I said it improved. One thing visually that I don't think they're getting right.
Oh.
They're constantly messing this up. And here's the excuse for why they do this. And we've talked to Noah Averbach-Katz from Star Trek Discovery Season 2, who played Rin. And even he said, and a lot of actors do say this, they believe one of the reasons the alien makeup is always drastically redesigned is because they have to do full face masks. They don't do separate pieces like Michael Westmore did back in the day, who, by the way, was a master at blending. You see some of the HD footage of TNG or DS9. Yes, you can see the seams at points, but for the most part, it's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn seamless. So the excuse is now where we have 4K, very high resolution kind of filmmaking, that now the Andorians have to have a full face mask. Even the goddamn
Can't you
Orions.
do it smooth though? Can't you do like a smooth face mask?
Well, that's what they tried to do with the Orions. It still looks like somebody in a mask. What?
Did the Orions have a face mask?
You never noticed how they all look like they have $1 billion worth of plastic surgery?
I thought that was just because
how their faces are so stiff and they can barely move their mouths.
I thought that was just because they had so many layers of like shine and gloss and glitter.
If you look at the Orions from season 1, I'm not sure about season 2 though. Can't remember seeing them.
The Orions from season 1.
The Orions from season
that's right.
1.
The Discovery.
What were you thinking? You were thinking another species.
No. I was thinking. No. I was thinking about Orions. I forgot that they went to.
But
Clint Howard didn't have anything on his face. He was.
That's what I'm saying. Before they used to just paint the actors. Now they literally have to make them like those battery people from the commercials from years ago that looked humanoid but had a face mask. And the reason is because they don't want as many seams to show up. And the problem with that is, especially with Laurel and some of the Klingon makeup in season 1, you could still see the seams and creases in the parts around. Like there's one shot with Takuvma where you can see the thing around his eye, the seam. You can see one where they do a close up of Laurel, and you can see her lips separated from the prosthetic. You know what I mean?
I don't mind those kind of mistakes personally, though.
But I'm saying the excuse of we need to do face masks because of HD is not a viable excuse.
Yeah,
it's something I think they tell the actors, and then the actors tell people like us, like, well, this is why they do it. This is why they have to redesign everything. But guess what? There are actors with pieces all throughout season 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Star Trek Discovery.
No, they redesigned the species. They redesigned the species. I'm going to be blunt. They redesigned the species because of ego.
Exactly.
That's it.
That's exactly.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And I understand. Look at what they did to the Ferengi. My God, they made them so ugly. If they weren't ugly enough,
you are now in charge of like the art direction or like the creative process for species. It's not interesting for you as a creator and as an artist to just take what someone else has done and do it again. I understand. It's like I want to put my little twist on it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But at the end of the day, in my opinion. And I know that there are surely producers, and I don't want to blame the artists because I'm sure there's producers saying you have to do it differently because we want to be different. But at the end of the day, there's someone that's making a decision to be different and to make it different, and that person is wrong. Whomever you are incorrect person.
There are actual people who work on the show. You can find their name.
I don't want to point fingers at anyone because I don't know who it is.
The dude from Face Off, what's his name? God, Neville Page?
Neville Page. Is it him? Is he the one making the decisions, or is someone telling him, "I want the Klingons to be different"? Or I want. But the point is, they should not be.
To be clear, I want to talk on that point because I want to be clear about this.
If you do want to make things different, I'm sorry, I'm just going to finish on this. If you do want to make things different, then try to use older designs as well. Try to blend like a mix and match of different iterations of the species.
The excuse for the radical redesigns is that it's 4K and we need full face masks. That's the excuse. But in fact, before the show even came out, Brian Fuller said from the get-go
he wanted the Klingons
that the aliens would be redesigned. And actually, it was his idea to have the Klingons be bald. Who knows how different... How more different the show would have ended up being.
Again, bald Klingons is fine. It's because they have elongated alien skulls. They look like xenomorphs.
No. Bald Klingons aren't fine. To inherently retroactively say this species that had full. One of their trademarks is their full head of
No,
fucking
no, no, no,
hair.
no. I disagree with you on that. I think it's fine to have one. You have to write it into the show, though. You can't just say all Klingons are bald. They've always been bald.
No, no,
You
no.
have
But
to
they didn't
say
write it into
this
the show.
faction of
No,
Klingons.
but no, they
They
didn't
like
write it. They didn't write it into the show. They were bald. They never had hair ever, and they never will in any. According to Discovery from the beginning, this is a fact. What happened was people were so irate about it that in season 2, what did they come out and say? They talked to us like idiots, and they said, "Oh, you don't understand, fans.
they were bald because of the
They
war.
weren't redesigned to be like retroactively bald, which was actually the fact. That's not the case. Actually, what you didn't know, fans, that we just fucking pulled out of our ass actually, was that in times of war, they actually shave their heads. It's like, no, that's never been a thing, and it never, you know what I mean? No, but
They
we
would actually
invent.
let their hair grow
It's like
out
that.
in
It's
time
like
of
that.
war.
It's like those video pitch meetings. Somebody should do a pitch meeting about each season of Discovery in that way. It's like, oh, in the second season, we just told the audience that they shaved their heads. Oh, and they're gonna buy that? Yeah, sure, why not? And it's like people did buy it, and people would come to me and say, actually, the creators said that they shaved their head. I'm like, don't talk to me. Don't give me excuses
I have
about.
countless Discovery
Don't defend
reviews.
their lies. Like,
I have countless Discovery reviews in which I keep on saying the baldness was not the problem. Anyway, it is what it is. I think that personally, I think that redesigning species is incorrect. In Discovery season 3 and 4, however, I don't give
you
a
mean
shit
to tell
because
me
there's
you
so
mean to tell
far-
me that you mean to tell me if they didn't have the elongated heads and they were still retroactively all bald, you would still be cool with that?
I'm fine. Look, even if the producers of Discovery say all Klingons have always been bald, that's not the case on screen. It has to be said on screen. It has to happen on screen. And what's happening on screen is not that. So if the Klingons didn't have claws, if they didn't have 4 nostrils, if they had ears that were actually not enveloped into their skull, if they didn't have elongated skulls, these are the problems with the Klingons, right? If they didn't have all of these features that make them completely different aliens, because in Star Trek, one lump can make you a different species.
Yeah.
But these people are like completely different. If all of that wasn't the case, and if they were just bald, it would be like, okay, there's a bald Klingon. Chang was a bald Klingon. We've seen bald Klingons before. You know what I mean? And I'm fine with that. I'm fine. And I was so invested. I firmly believe they were gonna say something like these people look from like a world that like these Klingons have evolved in harsh conditions or something sci-fi-ish. That doesn't really make sense.
To add insult to injury, to add insult to fucking injury. You know what they said at the beginning? Oh no, just wait a couple episodes. I think I'm not bragging on Noah, but he had a job to do and he got paid. But I'm saying like the way they put it out on social media was like, oh no, you have to wait further down the line. And you're gonna see you're gonna see a variety of Klingons to show that there are different ones. And what happened was, we did see a variety of the same elongated skull, bald fucking Klingons. But, so their excuse about like, oh fans, you don't know. But say what they did in season 2 was that they gave him hair. They didn't totally. They redesigned.
They gave him hair that started from here anyway, from started behind like the elongated skull.
Actually, no.
Well, so stupid. They looked worse with the hair.
Actually, they redesigned L'Rell. Her skull wasn't nearly as long in the back.
Yeah.
They didn't do it for others. I think they had carryovers from the season 1.
Yeah, they just had other shit.
They just had other
hair into.
Yeah.
Like screw that. Just put a wig on it. Whatever.
It was an improvement. I just don't buy the excuse of it. Like, I get it. Why don't you just... I know you can't come out and say, yeah, we fucked up. Now we're changing it. That sounds like people who don't know what they're doing, and they don't want to sound like that. But in fact, they did not know what they were doing. That's a fact.
And here's the thing. More truthful. I find it bitter. I find it bitter if they did that.
I want to get your opinion before we have to take off. What did you think of the Ferengi redesign?
Okay, so here's the thing. I don't like it, but I don't care. It's the 32nd century. This Ferengi is clearly not... he's a mudblood. Right? He's clearly not fully Ferengi, right? He's clearly crossed or interbred with other species. You know what I mean? The friggin' guy that votes for the Orion is not even green
I think you're
in
falling
the
down a trap
episode.
there, Sean. I gotta pull you out of the trap. The whole trap of it's not a redesign because it's a mixed species. I'm like, we said that before with Klingons. We said that before with the
Yeah,
Andorians and
but
like
at least this is like 32nd century.
well there's
So
no yeah
so 1,000 years have passed. It's like, you know what I mean?
930, but yeah.
Oh yeah, my bad. When they were saying specifically this for like Discovery, which is set basically in between like TOS and Strange New Worlds or whatever it is, like you can't sit there and say, well, Andorians look like this. Like, no, we just saw them in Enterprise 90 years before. Like, this doesn't happen.
The fact that so many people online were confused about whether it was a Ferengi or not is a true testament of the fact that they shouldn't have messed with it.
I don't agree with that, Braxton. I'm sorry. And maybe
Well,
this is because he says that they couldn't do 90s Klingons. It would be like blackface. The Klingons had to change their
no, you. I
appearance.
think you're referring to the '60s Klingons, Braxton,
Actually,
because
maybe
the
I'm
the
not the
'60s
best
Klingons were
place to
actually
talk
white
about it.
guys in brown face.
They
In
had mainly black actors, I think, in like 90s Star Trek when they started doing Klingons. Like
and
they,
and yes,
but
and do
I
also note
understand what he's
they had
saying.
they had different skin tones of Klingons in TNG. They kind of just did the uniform kind of look in the
No,
older
I
stuff.
understand where you're coming from in the sense that, like, I guess if you're just applying paint or if you're applying whatever kind of just dark makeup to one's face, even if the actor is black on it, it kind of looks like you're just blackening a face. So if you do a full mask, then it's more of like a makeup application or a full. But I still think that they could have elegantly redesigned the Klingons that we were used to rather than doing it this way. At least for a few Klingons in the background. Because
Um,
and the thing is, Chris Obi is one of the best actors out there. He's amazing.
he was canceled.
Fucking
You can't say anything good about him now. Sorry.
oh really?
Some
Chris
sexual
Obi's
assault thing.
great. Oh fuck.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, my
You gotta
bad.
be careful who you
My
praise
bad.
nowadays,
My bad.
because they could have been accused of something.
On an acting from an acting standpoint, Chris Obi is a great actor. I'm sorry. I think
Wonder
that
why we haven't seen him in anything since.
oh yeah. Anyway, it would have been
Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Laurel.
Sorry. I don't mean to make
Laurel.
light of it.
Mary Chifo, good actor. All right.
Uh, she
Take
ran
off.
sweatshops. Just can't say anything good about her.
Take
No, I'm
take
joking.
all of the stuff off the face. Let them speak and act and emote.
And
Anyway,
if there is this bizarrely unreasonable sensitivity to
I have to run.
and Andorians can't do blue because that's just blue faces. Like, where are we going here? They're aliens, prosthetics mixed with painted faces. If it's just a painted face, it's a different story, I think. But yeah,
I would
anyway.
like to talk to someone, or I would like someone to come out and say something honestly, because the problem is we've never had someone say honest things. Perhaps it is a blackface thing. Perhaps it has to do with like quality of makeup and application when there's like a four camera lens like in your face. Perhaps. All I can say is, as it stands, it feels more like an ego thing. It feels like someone wants to make their own mark on Star Trek. I just think that that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to make interesting and compelling stories that will stick with us for years to come. And Discovery Season 4 is not delivering that currently.
And I'd like to know what that conversation was in the room when they were writing season 1 of Discovery. Let's do a scene where we clearly show that our versions of Klingons have two penises. Like, that was a conversation that happened and a decision that was made and it was filmed and fucking everything. Like, there were actual things rigged up for that thing to be shot that way. I'm like, this is fucking Star
I'm gonna
Trek,
feel
dude.
stupid here,
This
but
is
are breasts
overkill.
organs?
Overkill. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Breasts are not organs, are they?
Breasts?
Yeah.
What about them?
No, because you're supposed to, like, Klingons have double organs. That's why there was the whole two penises thing. But I'm just thinking, should L'Rell have four breasts? No,
Why?
they're not organs.
That the two things in the breasts don't they're not necessary for.
Well, then it's not
I'm
necessary
thinking the
to have.
Klingon female has two Anyway,
yeah,
we're getting
maybe.
into the weeds with this
Anyway,
shit, but
Discovery
is-
season 4
this is the
isn't nearly
time
as
to.
interesting as it could be, and it's just to me it's missed potential.
You can't paint people brown today. You just can't. It would be so controversial.
Perhaps it would. Perhaps they would have gotten shit on. I don't know.
Yeah, you can't do what they did in this in the '60s Star Trek with Klingons. That's why people point to like, oh, they redesigned them in the motion picture. Yeah, because it's an evolution. It's but like we're getting in this whole thing about like the face masks and stuff like that. That's a minor. That really is a minor thing with most of the complaints we made about the show tonight. It's mainly just like the big mystery that we don't care about, and the writing is kind of boring now, and it's the show is settled to a point where it's become less. You made a good point earlier about the previous 3 seasons, even though a lot of it didn't work for me or you here and there, they still were like fucking going for it all the time.
Yeah.
Now it seems to have calmed down, and they're like, we need more talky episodes. I'm like, sure, that's great, but it needs to be interesting. And a lot of these scenes are just like, I space out. But anyway, you've got to go.
I'm
We
gonna
should
run.
end it here. Thank you so much for
I
joining me.
apologize
Thanks.
to your audience for not being overwhelmingly positive.
We tried. We did. Go back and watch. We tried. But it's going to be interesting to see where the show goes. And maybe it'll go one more season or however many more seasons. But I need to know before we go, this is the first time that they haven't announced the next season this far into the season. Every previous
Really?
season, by about mid-season, they've said, "Oh, it's renewed for next season. It's renewed for next season." Like halfway through season 1, halfway through season 2, and I think halfway through season 3. No, even before season 3, I think it was 3 and 4 were already confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
But before they would
Okay.
always announce it. This is the first time they're not announcing it, so either it gets one more season, probably goes into like movies after that. I think that's where it's going to go. It's probably going to do one more season, and then like every now and again the cast comes back for a Paramount Plus movie, which is actually a thing now that they do with South Park and Beavis and Butthead, and they're going to keep
Okay.
doing that. So that's going to be interesting.
Okay.
So thank you, Toddy, for
Thank
joining me,
you.
and thank you folks for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, folks, live long and prosper.